What is up, guys? It's Gamer here. I'm here reacting to top 10 British urban legends. I live in the UK, so there are some urban legends I've heard of. There are some others that I've never heard of before. We are going to react to top 10 scary British urban legends by the most amazing top 10. Go subscribe to them. I'm going to go subscribe to them right now if I can. Can I? Please? There we go. Yeah. So, yeah. We are going to be reacting to top 10 scary urban legends from Britain. Before we do that, I'm going to apologize. I said on Friday I'd be recording. I'd be live streaming. On Thursday I did that video, then I deleted it because I didn't want to mislead anyone. I'm not that type of person. I apologize. I got DDoSed on the second game. On the first game we were playing against a Freddy, I think it was. Or was it? No, it was the twins. And then we faced a trapper. And the trapper was decent, but he just DDoSed me. My internet was terrible. I reset my PlayStation. I said, let me try live stream again. But it just gave up on me. It just stopped recording by itself. So I apologize. I think I want to live stream in between Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure. I'll probably start live streaming and then notify you guys. I'll make a little 50-second video and tell you guys what's up. Yeah, get into the video.
Hello everyone, I hope you are ready for this. We're going to be looking at some creepy tales again, and this time it's from my homeland of Britain. It's a place with a lot of history dating back thousands of years, so it makes sense that there would be a lot of scary stories attached to certain places. Which one of these will send a shiver down your spine? Let's find out. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the top 10 scary British urban legends. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the corpse train. Now, according to London folklore, in the early 1900s, there was a train that ran underneath the city, and it was only for dead people. Back then, London's hospitals and morgues were struggling to deal with the vast amount of people that were dying from poverty and disease. They decided to transport the bodies out of the city, but knew that they couldn't do it overground without disturbing a lot of people. So, they used an existing train line to load the bodies onto. The train ran just the other side of a wall from the normal daily service, where unsuspecting Londoners were getting on and off their trains, unaware of the nearby bodies. Next up at number 9 now, we have the suicide pool.
Yo, I take the London Underground, and boy, if you've been on the London Underground at night, especially at night, but on the Brown line, the Bakerloo line, that one is the oldest line from the trains, so it has an old train. The trains are old, but like, I'm not superstitious, but whenever I go there, I feel like a heavy energy is like a presence. Something is there, something's watching me, but there's no one there, and the smell as well. I don't even know how to identify the thing, because I mean, knowing that information, that if that is true, if dead corpse are behind the walls of the normal train line, if they're actually there, then that's scary. Apparently, a man was on the Bakerloo line, the Brown line, and he saw, it was at night, and he saw that there was on the window, he was sitting on the window seat, and someone was sitting next to him. But when he turns around, he looks, there's no one there. So it's kind of scary.
This one comes from Epping Forest near Essex. The story goes that years ago, a young couple in love were followed to a pond in the forest by the girl's father. When the couple finally embraced, the father leapt from the trees to confront the boy. The fight got out of hand and the father ended up killing the boy in a rage at the edge of the pool. The waters then turned black. Wildlife that was touching the water died instantly. In the years that followed, bodies started to appear in the water. First, it was an old woman, then a young one with her young child beside her. They say the pool drew them into their death, and that the pool is still out there in the forest somewhere, waiting for its next victim. Next up at number 8 now, we have Annie. This one comes from Edinburgh, Scotland. In the old town there lies a street known as Mary King's Close. It's steeped in myths and legends of hauntings and murders. In 1990, a psychic called Aiko Gibo visited and felt a small hand touch hers. She said that she then made contact with the spirit of a dead child called Annie, who had died in a plague hundreds of years ago and had lost her doll. The psychic then went to a nearby shop and brought back a Barbie doll for her. Now since then, visitors leave dolls for Annie, and a mountain of them has built up in the dark. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the Faceless Woman. This one comes from the borough of Barking in London. There you can find Beacon Tree Station, home to the Faceless Woman. The most famous sighting of her happened in 1992. A station supervisor reported that on one night he heard the handle of his office door rattle. Outside on the platform stood a woman. She had blonde hair, she wore a very pale dress and just stared into the distance. The supervisor approached her, but as he reached out, she turned to him only to reveal she had no face, just darkness where there should be one. Local ghost hunters claim that she is the victim of a train crash that happened there in 1958, which killed 10 people. At number 6 now, we have the Beast. England's Hackney Marshes is known for its sprawling woodland and boggy reed marshes often covered in swirling fog, the perfect setting for this urban legend. The story goes that in 1980, 2 bear carcasses were found in the river. They had been decapitated. People started speculating about who or what could cut a bear's head clean off its shoulders. Then, a year later, 4 boys were taking a walk along the marsh one winter morning when they saw it through the trees. They described it as a giant, great, growling, hairy thing. As soon as it saw them, it reared up on its back legs and let out a deafening roar. The boys ran, but the story remains always in the back of people's minds as they trudge through the marsh. We're returning now to the London Underground for our number 5 with The Crying Girl. On November 18th, 1987, a match was dropped on an escalator at London's King Cross station. A fire quickly spread into the nearby ticket office, which resulted in the death of 31 people. In the years since then, passengers have reported seeing a girl who died around the station. She has long brown hair, wears jeans and a t-shirt, and is always crying. Some people have even reported hearing her sobs while smelling smoke coming out from the escalators. Back to Scotland now.
Oh god. Yo, I've been to the London Underground in the King's Cross station, but I've never heard of this story. Damn, that's actually sad. I never knew there was a fire as well that in King's Cross station. Damn.
For our number 4 with Sawney Bean. This is the gruesome tale of Alexander Sawney Bean, a man who was said to be the head of a Scottish clan of cannibals in medieval times. According to legend, the group was made up of his wife, their 14 children and 32 grandchildren, some of whom were born through incest. They lived in a cave by the water and would ambush people on the road at night. They would bring their bodies back to the cave to then dismember and eat them. Any leftovers were pickled in a jar for later. When King James VI of Scotland eventually heard of these murders, he led a manhunt to capture them. The clan was caught and then executed. Some people say you can still find the cave along the Benane Head area of Scotland. Moving on to number 3 now, we have Kane Hill. Some say this is one of the most haunted places in England. It was a mental asylum for over 100 years, from 1882 to 1991. It built up a reputation for abandoning some of its patients, hiding them away from the public eye and never truly helping them. Some people say the patients who died left their energy behind there because of their tortured lives. The building was gutted by a mysterious fire in 2010. Perhaps the scariest stories of all are of the faces appearing by the burnt out windows. Next up at number 2 now, now we have the House of the Screaming Skull. This one comes from Bettiscombe Manor in Dorset, England. The legend goes that in 1830, a man lived there called John Frederick Pinney. He had a slave that he had brought back from the Caribbean island of Nevis. The man became ill, and on his deathbed, he swore he would never rest unless his body was returned home to Nevis. Pinney refused to pay for that expense, and when he died, he had the man buried in the local graveyard. After that, ill fortune began to plague the village for months. Screams and cries were heard from the cemetery. At the manor house, windows rattled and doors kept slamming. The body was dug up and brought to the manor house, where today only the skull remains, where it's said to haunt the manor, but the village remains safe. And finally, number 1 now, we have the Hellhounds. Dartmoor is a vast, rocky, windy and mysterious part of England. It's popular among tourists, but everyone who goes there is aware of the legend of the Hellhounds. It's said that a pack of these ghost dogs wanders the moors at night, preying on sheep, and they're not afraid of humans. They've often been described as cat-like, but with the frame of a bear, and very fast. There have been pictures and film taken of them over the years that claim to show glimpses of these hellhounds in action. Many of the locals don't even need that though. They've heard the stories handed down from generation to generation. Some of them even say they've seen the hounds with their own 2 eyes. Great stories. I want to talk about more of them, but next time I want them to be from other countries. We've done a few of them now, but there's plenty more countries out there. Where are you guys?
Damn, that's scary. Like, I'm alone right now as I'm recording this. I'm home alone. I already feel paranoid. I'm gonna react to another video right now. I think there's a part 2 of this. So. Alright, we found it. Let's watch it.
Hello guys, the first British Urban Legends video I did was insanely popular. I think it's sitting at just over 1.3 million views right now. That tells me that you guys may want some more, so that's exactly what I've gathered here for you today. My name is Danny Burke. This is the Top 10 Scary British Urban Legends Part 2. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Tulip Staircase Ghost. In 1966, Reverend R.W. Hardy was visiting the Queen's House in Greenwich. There was an old staircase there known as the Tulip Staircase. He decided to take a picture of it. It wasn't until he got his photo developed that he saw this, a figure scaling the stairs that had not been there when he took the picture. The strange hooded figure became known as the Tulip Staircase Ghost. Ghost hunters have now been visiting the site for over 50 years. Many of them have reported strange results from their recording equipment. Looking at that picture, even the most skeptical of people have admitted that the hands and the body do look like an actual person, albeit one that's perhaps locked between the 2 worlds of the afterlife and the Tulip Staircase. Coming at number 9 now, we have Spring-Heeled Jack. In October 1837, a girl called Mary Stevens was said to have been walking through Clapham Common in England when a strange figure leapt at her from a dark alleyway. He began to kiss her face while ripping her clothes off with his claws before fleeing the scene. The next day, the same figure caused a carriage to crash. This time they said that he breathed fire, laughed, and then jumped over a 9-foot-high wall. Locals began to call him Spring-Heeled Jack. The following year, a woman called Jane Aslop said that she answered the door to a man claiming to be a police officer who said they caught Spring-Heeled Jack. She brought him a candle, at which point he tore his cloak off, vomited blue and white flames from his mouth while his eyes resembled red balls of fire. He tore at her with his long claws, but she managed to escape. It's been over 180 years since then, but that hasn't stopped the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack from living on. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Highgate Vampire. In 1969, a man called David Farrand reported seeing a ghostly grey figure walking through the Highgate Cemetery. As more reports poured in, another man called Sean Manchester stepped forward to say he knew what the sightings were of, a vampire. Eventually, people began to believe this. Local people went hunting around the cemetery looking for the vampire, armed with crucifixes and heavy wooden stakes. Sean claimed a sleepwalking girl had actually led him to the graves one night to kill the monster. He and David became convinced that a group of Satanists were using the cemetery to summon demons, and that the vampire was just one of many. Although the media frenzy has died down now over the years, many locals still swear there's something not right about that cemetery, and so the legend of the vampire lives on. Coming at number 7 now, we have the Screams of the Dead. In 1943, Bethnal Green in East London experienced one of the worst tragedies of World War II. It wasn't from bombs, but panic. During air raid siren tests, civilians on their way to shelter in the tube station began to converge on the same entrance all at once. In their panic to get down, some people tripped, and then a stampede began. People fell to the ground and were crushed. 173 people were trampled to death, including at least 41 children. Locals say the place never really healed. They report hearing women screaming and children crying in the station, and a deep sense of dread in the night.
Oh God.
Why is it that some students get A stars and others get C's and D's?
Moving on to number 6 now, we have a weird one. It's called the Frittening. This was the name given to a creature that's said to live on the Isle of Shetland in Scotland. Locals claim that it's a boneless, blob-like beast that will scare anyone who sees it to death. Those that caught a glimpse and lived to tell the tale described it as looking like a bag of wet sand or wool. Others said it was an armless, legless, ghastly, wet, vile thing that pressed its lidless eye against their windows. A little bit worried because that description kind of fits me if I'm having a rough morning. Next up at number 5 now, we have Netta Fornario. This woman from London was said to be a member of the occult. In the summer of 1929, at the age of 30, she left London for Iona, a small Scottish island steeped in folklore. She joined a secretive occult group known for their ritual magic, tarot cards, mysticism, telepathy, and a deep interest in fairies. After some months, her landlady found her one morning in a frenzy, packing her luggage. She told the landlady that she needed to return to London immediately, as several members of the cult were attacking her telepathically. The landlady said she would have to wait, as the boat didn't run on Sundays. Netta became enraged and retreated to her room. She eventually calmed down and said she would stay and that she was going out for a walk. When she didn't return by nightfall, the landlady raised the alarm. After 2 days, a search party found her body. She was found lying on top of some turf that had a cross carved into it. She was wearing only a thin black cloak. The doctor who examined her body could not find any cause of death. Her body was in a fine physical condition. It was just dead. Officials put it down to exposure to the elements on the cold Scottish island. Others believe she was killed by a psychic telepathic attack generated by someone miles away. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the Boggart. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you may have heard of the Boggart before, but did you know it's based on a real legend? Boggart Hole Clough is a 190-acre area of ancient woodland that is said to be haunted by a Boggart, a mischievous spirit that typically lives in fields and marshes, but can also be found indoors. They're usually known for their harmless peskiness, turning milk sour or making objects disappear, but some people say they have a much darker side. They're often blamed for the abduction of children. The one that gives its name to Boggart Hole Clough is claimed to be notorious for this. It's been said that it was so active once that a farmer and his family were driven from their home for fear of the Boggarts stealing their children. Next up, number 3 now, we have the figure in the studio. In an interview with a Londonist, a couple of radio hosts from Resonance FM in London told a story that has sparked a modern-day urban legend, the figure in the studio. They said that one day, while working in the radio station, they saw an evil spirit, more malevolent than anything you can imagine. It was just standing there at night in their offices watching them. It looked like a shadow with angry red-rimmed eyes and strange-looking dark teeth. Just before they called out to it, the spirit smiled, revealing its long teeth, and then it disappeared. Many local ghost hunters are convinced that they have discovered a new spirit, and that this won't be the last haunting of the figure in the studio. Moving on to number 2 now, we have the Devil's Bridge. According to legend, the devil visited Ceredigion in Wales in the 11th century after hearing about its breathtaking scenery. Yes, even the devil appreciates a good view. While there, he struck a bargain with a local woman whose cow was stranded across the river. In a bid to buy her soul, the devil said he'd build her a bridge in exchange for the soul of the first living thing that crossed it. He was obviously hoping for hers. When the bridge was built, the woman threw a loaf of bread across, which her dog chased. The devil couldn't take the dog's soul. He was said to be so embarrassed and ashamed that he never returned to Wales again. In the village of Devil's Bridge today, there are 3 crossings across that river. The oldest is said to be the one built by Satan himself. And finally, number 1 now, we have Jack the Ripper. This is arguably the most famous British urban legend of all time. Not really sure how I managed to miss it out in the last video. He was an unidentified Victorian serial killer, also known as the Whitechapel murderer, because of the area of London in which he killed people. He was thought to have targeted female prostitutes in slums by slashing open their throats. He removed the internal organs from at least 3 of his victims, which made authorities think they were dealing with someone with some knowledge of surgery. The police began to receive letters from a writer or writers claiming to be the murderer. One of them even came with a kidney said to belong to one of the victims. The murders were never solved, and the legend of Jack the Ripper continued to grow. There are now over 100 hypotheses about who the real killer was, but the story still remains shrouded in mystery. So, that was another video on British urban legends. Would you...
Yo, nobody knows who Jack the Ripper is. Like, no one. Once quarantine finishes, I may have an idea. I might go to Whitechapel and record a little tour there. One time I went there and like I said in the last part, I said in the underground there's like some heavy energy, like it's like a spirit is there. It's just resting, it's not doing anything. And when I went to Whitechapel, like the back streets, they're creepy. Even in the day, I'm not gonna lie. Even watching this video, I'm already paranoid. Like the countless times that I've looked behind me and seen nothing. Like at the beginning of the video, I just like heard a little scuffling, like fidgeting, like back here, but there's nothing. If it's a rat, there's no rats here. How can it be? Then it could just be my imagination playing tricks on me in my mind. But yeah, I mean, like now we've learnt some urban legends of the UK, of Britain. Comment down below which one was the scariest. I think the scariest... Holy crap. It's just my neighbour. Comment down below which is the scariest. I think the scariest one is... I think it's the underground one, the one with dead bodies. I think that one's scarier. That's the scariest because, like, you never know. It might be true, may not. Who knows? So, guys, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.